What's up, Trojan fans? Welcome back into the LA Sports Brotherhood. It's me, Ryan, here with my brother Matthew. And it's been a little bit since our last SC video. In fact, we've missed a whole week of games. That is my fault. I messed up a recording for something that was actually very important going into the Washington week. So I'd like to bring that little topic up now before we get into our main point, which is the quarterback change. We did a video talking about expectations for the rest of the season, the last 4 games before the Washington game, and what it would mean to win out, or like what different scenarios would mean for the future of the franchise, future of the program. And the Washington game, I think, kind of encapsulated the perfect downside of what we were hoping for. I'm not going to bring up everything from the video because I do feel bad. I think I liked what we said, so I feel bad that I messed it up. But it essentially is the point that we both kind of made. And Matt, I'll toss it to you so you can talk about this, and then we can shift into Maiava. But said that winning out was by far the most important thing because there's a lot of momentum to be had, and just besides the default wanting to win every game because you're a competitive football team. And we really thought that there was a lot of importance in putting a good foot forward the last 4 games. And that immediately did not happen. So in some ways it is ironic that the recording got messed up, and then immediately Lincoln and the Trojans kind of came out as flat as you can be. But yeah, so Matt, with that in mind, and then of course you can transition to Maiava because that is a very major topic. You can kind of go forward. You can take it wherever you want, but yeah, we're coming off another loss when really should have been looking at momentum going forward.
Yeah, I mean it's been an awful season. There's no other way to put it. It's been the thing that I said in the video you mentioned was, in theory, you could say, yeah, let's get red hot, let's win out and carry on momentum. But what I said was, this is a team that has continued to make mistakes, and I think they will continue to make mistakes because naturally, if you can easily say you're one play away in all these games, but if you made mistakes in every single game this season, you're likely going to continue to make mistakes. And we saw that in Washington. Lincoln had an awful game plan, just didn't run the ball in the first half against a team who their strength is their pass defense. And so didn't run the ball, looked awful first half. Then you start running the ball, and look what happened. Woody had a big game in the second half, and we caught up and should have won the game. But why did we lose? Lincoln's play calling and Miller interceptions. You know, he had 3 of them on the game, and yeah, like you said, transitioning into Maiava, we are playing for nothing. This season has been god awful. There's nothing we can get out of this season. There's 2 things now. We can maybe get our quarterback of the future in Maiava and spoil Notre Dame's playoff run. So in a season where Saturdays are painful, where we just can't get excited about Saturdays, we actually have a little bit of excitement, a little bit of intrigue this Friday against Nebraska as we switch to Jayden Maiava, of course. And to touch on Miller, it just had to be done. I like Miller a lot. I think he is a good quarterback, and I think a lot of the hits kind of added up because the player we did see at LSU was a good quarterback. That was a USC quarterback that I think could have brought us to the playoff, and he just kind of disappeared. If you look at the LSU game, if he threw a pick in that fourth quarter, we likely lose that game, and he didn't. Every single other close game, he did throw a pick, and that is one of the many reasons that this season has been a disaster. And so you got to make that switch to Maiava. Miller Moss will not be the starting quarterback next year. Jayden Maiava will, and he's got to get those reps. So don't be mean to Miller Moss. I think he's a great guy. He's a Trojan through and through, sticking with us. And I just wish the best of luck for him. As for Maiava, what you have is a incredible playmaker who makes a lot of mistakes. That's really what he was freshman year. If you just watch his highlights, he looks like an NFL prodigy. I mean, he is that good. His arm talent is great. He's mobile. The problem is he makes those mistakes. Those mistakes where you just look at your friend, whoever you're watching with, and you say, where was he going with that football? In fact, he actually had one of those in the spring game where it was just like, did him and the receiver, are they on the same page? No, it's just a bad throw. So what to expect on Saturday? I expect them to run the ball a lot. Lincoln, I mean, we've been saying it all year. Woody Marks is our best player. He was dominant in that second half against Washington. If we just would have done that in the first half, we would have won the game. And now you got Maiava making his first start, who's much more mobile than Miller Moss, so it gives us I think we could rely on the run game a little more. So the number one thing I think to look for is to run the ball. I think we will definitely run the ball a lot more. But however, Nebraska has a massive D line. They have a really stout run defense, and this is a sophomore who's making his first start. They're going to make him throw the ball. So their number one thing is going to be stop the run. We are going to try to run the ball. So it's going to come down to, can Maiava make the right reads? Can he be on time? And can he just limit the mistakes? I think he'll make a lot of plays that will make us go, wow, that's the quarterback of the future. What I'm looking for is, does he make those crucial mistakes? Because we see it all the time in college football. You can't really afford that. But the last thing I'll say is, Miller was never this dynamic Caleb Williams Heisman type player, and he made the mistakes. That was the problem. With Maiava, if he makes the mistakes, he's also going to have those plays where you go, wow, maybe he avoids a sack and uses his legs, maybe makes a crazy throw in a double coverage. So those mistakes will be made up for with his talent, and Miller just didn't have that talent. So I'm not going to be too harsh considering this is Maiava's only first ever start with USC. But I hope we see some great highlights and just limit the mistakes as much as he can.
Yeah, it's ironic that we're talking about Lincoln potentially leaning on the run game because he's never done that with SC. And the irony to me is that I think this start is probably when you don't want to feature the run game as much, because you do need to see what Maiava has. Because you said that he is he is projecting to be the starting quarterback for next season, which obviously I agree with if it's him or Miller, because they literally made the choice. It's Maiava going forward. But if you, for the first time all season, go lean into a heavy running approach when your season's over and you're trying to evaluate talent at quarterback, when you very well might have to jump into the portal to get a quarterback, and frankly I think they should anyway, it'd just be an interesting lack of foresight for Lincoln Riley. So I would look like I was looking down the whole time because I was doing some math. 5 losses for SC this year by a total of 19 points altogether, which is frustrating. And I think analysis wise, it's also frustrating because people can fall into the every game was so close type thing. And also, this is another point like we talked about in the Lost video, where teams that are good win a bunch of close games, teams that are bad lose a bunch of close games. And I know that like the general analytical thought is that like the law of large numbers, everything will even out. So if you lose a bunch of close games in the first half of the season or whatever, you're more like it's very likely that things even out and you win those same games. But bad teams do bad things, and the big part of it was in all of our preseason previews and stuff. We talked about how Miller will not save this team, but that like he's a quarterback that is good enough to not kill you if the rest of the team is functioning well. And for a large part of the season, the most important part of the team, the offensive line, was horrible. And they genuinely have been progressing better and better, especially in the run game. But like you said, maybe the hits caught up with Miller. Like he was never super tight with the ball, but I feel like the clock in his mind really sped up the last couple of weeks because the interceptions have been getting worse and worse, and like very much inexcusable. Interceptions are never excusable, but like you can see context. Like there's some picks that he's been throwing that's like, what the hell is going on? That's just bad. Anyway, so I bring up that to say Maiava, he has his work cut out for him. This is very short-sighted of me, and I'm gonna have a completely open mind to him going forward. In the spring game, he didn't really flash any specific talent. Obviously, it's incredibly vanilla play calling. I'm not gonna just take that into consideration at all. I do need to watch his highlights at UNLV a lot more and just like kind of dig into what he is as a quarterback. But I don't like my initial impression of him when I've seen him in the games was not really like, oh my god, we need to replace Miller. Like it's the right move now theoretically because he can be someone for the future. But personally, I mean, this season's over, obviously, but I really think like I don't know currently that if Maiava is a starting quarterback going into next year, that I'm going to think they're going to have a good season. Truthfully.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're gonna find out, and that's the
Yeah.
whole point of this is we needed to see this. I think I think he's just he's really raw, and the good thing is
He
he's
is.
gonna go against some pretty good defenses, Nebraska, Notre Dame, so we really see what he's about. But I do think I feel like some fans think he's Lamar Jackson. He's not that mobile with his legs, but he
Yeah.
can definitely move. And he's not Mahomes with his arm either. But I mean, it's tough to look at freshman year highlights where he's just kind of slinging it all over the place. I want to see, can he make the right reads? Another thing to take into account is it's hard to switch quarterbacks in a week. We had a full bye week, so that's
Hmm.
another thing to look forward to. I I was about to say I trust Lincoln Riley with the offense, but at this point I don't even know, considering
Yeah.
what we saw, especially what we just saw with Washington. But I do think we'll be in a better place. I think it wasn't all on Miller. Lincoln Riley had just a god awful season this year in terms of play calling and game management. So if I had to make my honest prediction on Mayava, I don't think it's like 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. We found our guy. I think he makes some good plays. So we have clips to say, okay, like this is a great throw. This was on time. He escapes a sack with his legs or something, and we just see the quarterback running more than we did with Miller. And I think it'll be productive. I think we have a chance to win, but I don't think it will be. This is a star, future Heisman. We found our guy. What
Yeah.
would your prediction be? Honest prediction be?
I for before getting to that, just really quick, because you did correct me. I didn't want to be down on him, and going into the prediction, the reason I don't want to be down on him, but I'm not really super encouraged, is just because of Lincoln Riley specifically. Caleb, when he was running, it wasn't he got a bunch of designed plays. Of course, he was pulling on some read options and stuff, but so many of his yards came from scrambling. But you can't do that if every pass play is immediate because your line sucks or the coach doesn't trust you to make deep enough reads that you can have the time to read the rush and like run. Miller Moss is not as talented of a runner as Maiava at all. I'm not saying that, but he is way more capable of running than he was allowed to be this year. That's why when people talk about before this change was made, people were talking about packages for Maiava and stuff. And it's like in theory that's nice, but Lincoln Riley doesn't have an offense like that. And he hasn't shown that he's adjusting to the players on his team. If he was adjusting to the personnel, Woody Marks would have had way more like he ended with 23 carries against Washington, but like you said, it kind of came as like, okay, I guess we have to run the ball now in the second half. Like he's never looking to do that. And the like Jalen when he had Jalen Hurts, it was because when he transferred, he couldn't really throw. So they really had to change the offense. But like Maiava is talented as a runner, and that is one thing I definitely saw from him when I saw just the very few UNLV highlights that I saw. But yeah, he's definitely not Lamar Jackson, obviously. But I don't even think this scheme is going to allow him to pretend to be that. So Lincoln's really going to have to change up. And like you said, it's a great point pointing out that they did this going into a bye week, so they had extra time. But you're really going to have to build the offense around the type of player Maiava is to feel the full impact of like what his potential can be. And if they don't, then I think this is going to be a wasted change, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. My last thoughts are I'm positive about Mayava. I'm hopeful he'll be productive. There's just no pressure at all. I mean, the season's
Yeah.
over. Let's just hope we got a really talented quarterback, and let's hope that Lincoln Riley doesn't screw this up. And yeah, go Jayden Maiava. That's really all we can say. And
Yeah.
also the receivers have been progressively getting better. Branch had a big game against Washington. No one's really talking about that. Makai Lemons continued to improve himself. Maybe Maiava throws a couple balls up to Lane and Deuce. Young talent at quarterback, young talent at receiver. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. Like closing it out, we talked about the outlook for the program and immediately got washed away. I still think there's a chance that if Maava is let loose, including all of the good and the bad, there's a chance that we can go into the offseason once again 7-5 and thinking okay, at least we have like an exciting quarterback going forward, and we have a bowl game, and all the receivers are going to be coming back. Well, they're there won't be entering the draft. I can't say all of them are going to be not transferring, but yeah, there's in spite of everything, there's still a chance for a glimmer of hope. But that's a lot of qualifiers. We just need to get there and hope Lincoln Riley does what he needs to do. So yeah, like you said, go Maiava. Let's beat Nebraska and see how it goes. Thanks for watching. Peace.